Okay guys, so this is why I told you guys to hang it up for at least 24 hours so that if you cut it on the bias or whatever, if it's going to warp, it needs to happen now. Now, I did not do the bottom half of my cape because I knew, especially with my other one, it only warped just a little bit, but this one warped about 2.5 inches. Hopefully you can see that. If not, I'll get another close-up. But surprisingly, it wasn't the lining. I thought for sure it was going to be the lining that warped, but it was actually the outside fabric. The kind of fabric that it was, I figured maybe it would do it. So what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to lay it out flat, and then I'm going to have to cut that 2.5 inches and meet all of this fabric together so that they're both there. Now, if you had went ahead and closed that seam up, you would have had a big bubble of fabric on the back of your jacket. So make sure that you hang it up for at least 24 hours. Let it hang, let gravity do its thing, and then you can come back and see if it warped a little bit, or if it warped a lot, or it might not have warped at all. But it's better to do this than have done all of that work and have to come back because it's warped in one way or another. Also, through my excitement of wanting to get this done, I completely forgot the cross straps. I know, it can't be a jacket without it. So, thankfully, I didn't hem the very bottom, so I can still get in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure down till about there or so, and then I'm going to open that seam up. I'm going to make a 2.5 inch strip of the gray fabric because I looked at the pictures this morning and they've got a gray crossover. So I'm going to make a 2.5 inch strip and then sew it, turn it inside out and top stitch it, and then put it somewhere in here on the shoulders. And I'll probably make sure that I try and videotape that for you guys. The tool that I needed, but hopefully this will get me started. So Joann's has these Dritz little they're for turning things in and out, and this one is for 1/2 inch and 1 inch or larger. We're gonna see. So what I did was I put interfacing on all the strips, or the 2 strips for the straps, and on one side of the strap. Then what I did is I came back and I cut the edges off so that when it turns inside out, it'll be nice and crisp. It won't have like all of that bulk in there. And what I noticed when I was sewing is that I needed to sew on the side that had the interfacing. If I didn't, the other side is stretchy fabric. I didn't realize how stretchy it was. When you sew on the top of that, it kind of kept sliding down and sliding down and sliding down. So I would stitch on the side that has the interfacing. Now what I'm going to do is you put this in here like so, and if nothing else, this will give us a good start. And then you're going to put it right in the middle, take your pokey thing. Alright, now you're supposed to push this through, but now that this is way too big, what I've been doing is pulling it up the wooden spoon, a little backwards, a little wooden spoon, wooden dowel thing here. It's a little backwards, but it can't be helped. It's too big, but it'll make turning this a whole lot easier. So that's what I'm going to do. I should have done was kept the dowel in there, and then I could have poked these sides. I can still put it back in there and fix them. But you're going to do that with both of the little straps. Okay, so what I did was I turned everything inside out, and I already pinned along the bottom and made the straps. I thought this would be the best way to try it on without constantly cutting into it or taking seams out to figure out where I wanted it to go. So right now I've got it in the back where the 2 and the 4 meets. I'll show you. And right now that feels really good. That placement in that particular seam feels really good. So let me take this off. And the straps, I went ahead and I did 35 inches just to give myself some extra overlap. I'd rather have too much fabric than not enough. So if you're going to cut your straps out and you measure a certain amount, give yourself a couple more inches just to make sure that you've got exactly what you need. Now, what I did was I measured 3 1/4 down. Hopefully you can see that. And what I did was I pinned it in place because I just wanted to try it on, and I didn't want to make sure that it wasn't too high or too low down here and it wouldn't do any good. So 3 1/4 looks like it's good to me and for my measurements. So you're going to have to just pin it right there and just see what works. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my seam ripper and I'm going to start from here to here, and I'm going to undo those seams. I'm just making sure I'm in frame. I'm going to undo these seams right here, and then what I'm going to do is stick it in there, and I'll show you in just a second. Okay, so I just wanted to show you guys, this is panel 4, and then number 2 is hooked on this side and the other 2 on this side, unless you added the fullness and you went ahead and added number 3. I took number 3 out because it looked like a maternity jacket, so I went ahead and took 3 out, so 2 and 4 are attached to each other. Hopefully I explained that earlier in the video. Anyway, I opened up the seams from 3 1/4 down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch right across there, and then my seams for the straps are going to be all finished, and I don't have to do anything else with that. Also make sure you cut your notches out in your neck part. It'll make it a whole lot easier to turn later on. I made some huge ones and just kept going all the way around the neck. Now, after I sew those together, I'm going to be doing the bottom, which you guys saw me pin. Don't forget when you sew the bottom together to leave a hole to be able to turn all of this inside outwards with. Don't forget, that's important. Okay, so in a video I made earlier this month, I showed you guys how to do a ladder stitch. Basically, a ladder stitch is going to allow you to close something up without it being visible. So the bottom end of the coat that you left open that you need to close now, we're going to do a ladder stitch. So basically you come up from the fabric with a knot at the end, go directly across, come up a little bit, go back across, directly across from it, go a little bit, go directly across, come up. Now on the video I show you a lot closer up of how to do this. So if you want a better video of how to do this, check out the scrubby pad video. And I got a piece of fabric. Oh well, now I got a knot. I got a piece of fabric and I showed you more in depth how to do that actual stitch. So what I would do is go look at that video, and that way you get a nice even hem at the bottom, and then you won't see the stitches. And then you can do the top stitching all around the jacket. I'm hoping that you guys can see this because I'm trying to focus on sewing. Hopefully you can see it. I like doing this versus doing a top stitch that's really close to the end to close it up. It's just, you can't see it. It's just like you sewed it with your sewing machine. And I learned this stitch actually this year. And I use it like all the time now. I'm just like, no, seeing the stuff, the thread, yes please. Alright, well I'm going to finish this up. I just wanted to show you what I was doing to the bottom. And then I'm going to show you how I've got everything turned inside out, and then we're going to top stitch. Alright, so now I've closed up the bottom and I am top stitching the lining and the facing. Now this part is not done yet. The very last thing that you're going to do is that. So now I'm just top facing everything, and I figured I would show you as I got to the collar if you decided to put the collar on there. It makes me wonder how many of you guys are going to actually make this jacket or not, because it's so pretty so far. So just take your time. There's a lot of layers here. And make sure that there's nothing underneath of there to get you in trouble. You want to make sure that your lining is nice and flat, that your jacket is nice and flat. And I have a seam there that I need to... Come on, baby. You can do it. So I'm just going all the way around the lining and the facing. And yes, it's taken a million years to do because this is a lot of jacket. And don't forget those points where the collar and everything meet. Make sure to poke that out real good too. It'll be less bulk if you've cut the inside like you're supposed to. Alright, now let's get this all situated. Make sure your collar's pulled out, your lining's in. Whew. That collar was thick. Alright, moving on. Alright, so I'm going to finish this up and I'll show you when I'm all done. Alright, so now I'm on to the little pockets. Even if you are not doing the ones that I'm doing, but you're doing the original ones, they wanted you to somehow, well, they wanted you to go ahead and sew it with your sewing machine, just going straight across here, all the way down, across, and then back over. But since I'm going to be doing the one that I did on the outside, which I can't show you right this second, since I'm doing this one, and it's a little fancy, I went ahead and I pinned it together, and I guess I could top stitch this, but I think I'm just going to hand sew it. I think it would look a whole lot nicer if it's just hand sewed in the inside. If you want to, you could top stitch it. I think it would be okay, but I'm going to hand sew it. So do both sides like this, and then, oh my gosh, we're almost done. Alright, so we're at the bitter end. Alright, the next thing I'm going to need to do is hand sew these, which I'm going to do today. And then the next thing you need to do, and it's like one of the very last steps, is that you need to sew this all down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to baste all the way down so it'll be nice and flat, and it'll sew like it's supposed to. That's what you need to do here. And then the very last thing, you'll have a nice little seam on the front. Now, if it were me doing this and I wasn't hand sewing it in the back, I looked on the jacket and it didn't look like they had that extra seam right there. That's why I'm going to hand sew this part into the lining. But otherwise, go ahead and sew right there all the way down so that that lining part is attached to the outside. And then the very last thing you've got to do is put your buttons in buttonholes. Now, what I'm going to do is, I noticed when I put it on, and I figured this was going to happen, the lining is kind of pulling away from the facing fabric. And so when you've got it on, the lining is kind of forward and taut, and the back is kind of like sliding down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out flat, and then I'm going to pin at the top where the seams are. I'm going to pin at the top, and I'm just going to put like a little stay stitch, or oh, what is the word I'm looking for? Yeah. I'm going to put the lining and the fabric together. I'm just going to sew a little stitch so where you can't see it from the outside, but at the top and the bottom of the straps right here, so that when the straps pull, the whole thing goes, not just the lining. Hey guys, alright, so I got all of the inside lining part all sewn in and hand sewn. I think I might have some footage of that, but I don't know if I'm going to like be able to get that off my phone. But anyway, as you can see, I stitched down like they told us to in the very beginning, but I didn't stitch it on the top of the back because I didn't like the look of it. On the Call of the Midwife's jacket, they don't have that top stitching going down here. So what I did was I went ahead and I hand sewed the lining and the outside little flap there. And I hand sewed that while I was sitting. There may or may not be some footage of that because it was not a great angle. I was having to use my phone. I felt kind of awkward carrying my camera in there with this stand. So I was like, let me just do my phone. We'll see. Alright, now the next thing that we're going to do are the buttons. Okay, if you've not used a buttonhole machine on your thing, I'm going to show you right now how I do mine. And instead of going straight to our finished product and trying to put a hole in it and messing it up, what we're going to do is I've got a scrap piece of the fabric. On one of the sides we put interfacing. I just grabbed some leftover interfacing that I had from, you can tell from making masks. And I went ahead and ironed that on the back. So I've got the layer of interfacing, the layer of fabric, and then what I'm going to do is flip that over so that there's two layers of this fabric, just like there's going to be on that jacket, and the layer of interfacing. We're going to practice making our mock-up buttonholes. So that's what we're going to do now. You can tell, hopefully you can see it. I've got my interfacing on the back, then I've got my fabric ironed to it, and then I just put another layer of fabric because that's the layers we've got on our jacket already. So now I'm going to take you over to the machine and show you how I put the buttonholes in. Alright guys, so now we have got our machine all set up with our thread color for the jacket. On the outside we've got a gray, we've got the bobbin matching. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab our zipper foot. And many of you guys probably got one of these with your machines when you bought it. Basically what you do is you put your zipper, your button in. I keep saying zipper today. I don't know what that's about, but anyway. You get your button and you put it in this little section. It slides up and down so you can do any size buttons. And then you've got this little piece right here where my thumb is. That is going to go where your little sewing foot is. So let me set you up for a second. That is going to go, oh, that light, okay. That's going to go right where your sewing foot normally goes, okay? Then you're going to have a little lever over here somewhere, which you can't see with my big hand in the way. You're probably most likely going to have one of these in the back of your sewing machines. You're going to grab that, and that's going to go behind your little thing. That's what helps it bounce back when it goes too far. The next thing you're going to want to do, make sure that you put that down, because if you don't put that down, it won't do what it's supposed to do. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to come over here and you're going to find your buttonhole stitch. Now, it has been 100 years since I've made a button, because they're not my favorite thing to do. This one right here, number 30. So you're going to come over to your machine, and we've got 30. Now, it may be different on your machine. You may have one of those ones that you have to like turn. It should be in your manual which one you're going to be using. But go ahead and put it on the buttonhole. And we're going to grab our scrap piece of fabric that I had earlier that I told you about. Because I am not doing this on my finished jacket until I know that I am satisfied with how the buttonholes look. So now the only thing you need to do is put your presser foot down, and then just put your foot on the pedal and let it roll. And this is why it's good that I did a test. I can tell that my machine's not quite, it's not sliding along like it's supposed to. So I'm having to help it go, and I don't want that. So I'm going to have to find out what the holdup is. And it may just be the interfacing being on the back. It may be something that simple that the interfacing is on the back. You just come up, mister. And it might just not be sliding like it's supposed to. So I'm going to try it. But you can see, pretty good buttonhole. That's why it's really good to practice before you put your finished project on there. Because it would really stink to have your finished project on there and the buttonhole not turn out like you wanted it to. Because then you might be saying some bad words. So another thing you want to keep in mind is you're going to put your the front right here, right at the front of your garment. So say this is the inside of the jacket. That's the jacket lining right here. So you're going to put your buttonhole foot right there, and it's going to start the buttonhole. It'll go backwards first. I'll show you when I do the jacket. Okay, that's a little better. I think it was the interfacing being goofy. I don't know why my machine has to be so moody. It's a really good idea to just practice. Get some scrap fabric and just keep trying your buttonholes to make sure they do what you want them to do before you try them on your finished product. And I am really happy with that. So I'm going to go through, and I'm debating on this button size. I might lay it out on my jacket and see if I'm happy with that button size. I think that's the size it needs to be. It just feels gigantic to me for some reason. But anyway, I'm going to lay out the jacket, and then I'm going to show you how I mark the buttonholes. Alright, so I have grabbed piece number 7, and number 7 has the buttonhole markings. And what I've done, because I can't actually use that piece because my jacket goes even longer, remember I put the 6 inches at the very bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from here to here, and that was 4.5 inches. And so what I'm going to do is just decide where I want to start my button, where I want my first buttonhole, mark it, measure 4.5 inches, mark it, and then just go all the way down with it. And that way I'll have them where I want them, and we're almost done. Okay, so I didn't show you guys while I put all the buttons on, but basically what I did was I lined up the jacket so that the bottom and the top were right where they were supposed to be. And then what I did was, after I made the buttonholes, I folded it over halfway, stuck my needle in there, and then went ahead and sewed my button on. And I did that 9 times. So many buttons because it's so long, but that is all done. Now the very last thing, if I can find the straps on here, the very last thing I've got to do for the coat, and you are completely done. I thought about doing Velcro, and then I was like, the jacket is so fancy, I don't want to use Velcro, but I want it to be adjustable. So I went and I got some different hook and eyes. I've got some black and some silver. That lighting is terrible. And what I'm going to do, basically, there you go. What I'm going to do, basically, is put some hooks and eyes on this. And I haven't decided if I'm going to use these or those other ones, because I think these are too small. But I'm going to open the package up and just kind of put them next to each other and see which ones look best. And then I'm going to put a set here and then like a set here, because I am losing weight, so I want to be able to like adjust it later on, and I have to keep sewing hooks and eyes on or moving them around or whatever. But that is basically it. Get your hooks and eyes on and your jacket is all ready for you to wear. So, ending thoughts now that the photo shoot is over with. And the jacket is all done. It is amazing, and I love it very, very much. We actually ended up having a really cool day today. So I was able to take it out and wear it, which is really cool. Got a few stares, but that's okay. I normally don't wear my hair like this, and normally you don't see people dressed like this. So anyway, I think if I had to do it over again, I think what I would do is add some pockets in between the first and the second panel. I think you could easily add a pocket right there, and then that way if you get a cell phone or if you feel awkward not having your hands in a pocket or something, you could easily put a pocket in the side, and that way at least you could have something to put your cell phone in or something like that. I really like how it turned out. I like how the straps kind of fit. It makes it, you know, I don't have to have it buttoned up all the time. You can always just have it kind of open, or I didn't really walk around with it with my arms out so that it was like a cape very much. I just naturally, you wear a jacket, it's on you through your arms, so you don't necessarily need the straps. It's your personal preference on what you would like to do. I think also, looking at more, we actually watched an episode of McCall's Midwives last night, and I think the armrests need to be up just a little bit higher, because I found when I was trying to drive or moving around, it was kind of limiting my mobility. So I think if I did, I would bring them up just a few more inches higher. That way you could have just a little bit more mobility with your arms. And on the video I saw, you could tell they were a little higher than I thought they were. So if I had to change a few things, it would be put a pocket in and then just make the armholes a little higher. And it's an easy fix now that you know how to do all this. Alright, if you guys want to make this jacket, don't forget that you can get McCall's M7477. Chances are you can probably get it at Hobby Lobby or Joann's or even Etsy or somewhere like that. You can adjust the pattern just like we did on the video, and then if you needed it a little smaller, typically my top is like a large, extra large, and my bottom is a little larger. So for me, I chose the large style, and it seemed to give me plenty of room. So that gives you any idea of what you want to do as far as sizing I would probably size down just because it's kind of big anyway, and you don't want it real tight on you. So that's what I would do. So don't forget to get your pattern. If you're interested in hairstyles, you can watch Rachel Makesy. She does all kinds of 40s and 50s hairstyles, and I was attempting a little victory roll thing, but my hair is so long. It's just hard to do some of that stuff. So we tried the best we could. So also, if you guys like that video, you can hit the like button. Or if you want to subscribe and possibly hang around for a Call of the Midwife's dress tutorial, you can hit that red subscribe button, and YouTube will let you know when I've next uploaded, which will be very soon. It's coming in the mail. So we'll be making that. And then also, if you guys are interested in the semi-Call of the Midwife's hat, this is something I had to come up with on my own because I couldn't find a pattern anywhere. So I had to find, I think it's called a cloche, maybe French, who knows. I had to make the hat and then kind of come up with a little wrap there. So if you guys are interested in that, leave me a comment in the comment section and let me know if that would be something that you guys would be interested in watching. And then maybe I can kind of throw a video together on how I made that as well. I hope you guys have had a great day. Thanks for joining me along this journey. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but we were in between hospital visits and stuff trying to finish this. Thanks for joining us again on Faith Works Design. I love this jacket so much. I had a little girl stop by and she's like, I want to take a picture. I'm like, okay. How are you doing today? Okay guys, this is why I need to learn to turn things off. We're going to practice and make mock-up zipper up.